who better to help us preview the Pacific Division than the Oil Man himself, DJ Bean, coming up on PHNX Hockey. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of the PHNX Hockey Podcast, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. PD is out of town. I had to phone a friend, and I thought, you know, if we're going to preview the Pacific, we need to call upon an oil man. And I thought, who better than DJ Bean, co-host of What Chaos? DJ, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that you phoned a friend and reached me, because sometimes when I phone a friend just to talk to a friend, I call Petey. Sometimes we just talk on the phone. That's my relationship with the guy. Love him.
Love him. I actually talked to him on the phone on my drive into the office, as is a time that we often speak at all times. He's the best. I think this is payback for me leaving him for 3 weeks this summer, but it's fine. We're going to have a great time today. Preview the Pacific, talk some NHL news, and then we'll, of course, talk some expansion fodder from Gary Bettman and Bill Daly to round out the show. But first of all, DJ, we got to get into it. We got to start with the Edmonton Oilers. You're an oil man. They finally locked Draisaitl up. He's happy. Are the Oilers the team to beat in the Pacific?
They're the team to beat in the Pacific. They're the team to beat in the NHL. They're the team to beat in the West. They're the team to beat no matter if they are a team that is at something. They are the team to beat. And I don't just say that as an Oilers fan. I say that as somebody who has been previewing all these teams. We just finally today finished up all of our team previews and all of our division previews. And you go through all the rosters and all the lines and all the mixing and matching that you could do with all these teams. And when you get to Edmonton, like, it takes your breath away, honestly, because they are so loaded offensively and have figured out the goaltending thing. Stu Skinner was outstanding as the playoffs went on last postseason. Defense, some questions there, but not major questions really. This is the team to beat in the Pacific for sure. And remember, the season they had last year was a lot of chasing it and a lot of making up for kind of lost time. Right now, they're starting clean, and they're a team that goes on a lot of winning streaks. So a full season of Chris Knobloch, I think that they're in for probably a very productive regular season.
Yeah, and after we saw that clip of Connor McDavid screaming at the locker room in the Amazon show preview, I have no doubt that they're motivated. Just the Draisaitl deal itself, like, do you feel like, you know, that might be the key to unlocking this run for them? I feel like that could have been hanging over them as a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, obviously as a hockey fan in Arizona, you know too well what it's like to have something big looming over a team and questions of, hey, what's the future here? With Leon Draisaitl going into a walk year and knowing that it's not just about Leon Draisaitl, that like Leon Draisaitl is the key also to keeping Connor McDavid. As Pete said when we did our when we did our Pacific preview, signing Leon Draisaitl means locking in Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. So there's no questions about, is this group going to be gone? Are they going to have to blow this up at some point? No, not really. Draisaitl's locked in. It's for a lot of money, yes, but he's a top 3 to 5 player in the NHL. He got what he probably should cost. But now this season is just all about unfinished business. You mentioned the great clip. The long rumored, it was, there'd been murmurs that at some point after, I think, game 2, Connor McDavid lost his you-know-what on the Oilers, which just sounds very un-Connor McDavid. But we see that clip, and there's probably more of it in that Amazon series. Another part of that, though, was after the Oilers lost Game 7, Zach Hyman kind of gave an impassioned plea to the team of like, guys, if you can, come back next year. Like, we really should all come back and do this. They obviously added a lot. They lost some pieces as well, some young guys, but they are really just primed to make a run and do nothing else right now. There's no more questions about what happens with these contracts, with these numbers or whatever. It really just is all about winning.
I know Petey is kind of a Oilers hater. I think with the episode we discussed the Draisaitl deal, he like went on record saying, "I don't think. Not only do I think they're not winning the Stanley Cup, I don't think they're getting back to the Stanley Cup final." We'll see. One of you will be right. One of you will be wrong. We can wait and see. But he's a hater.
It's the NHL, and I know this is a Pacific preview, but I think the Stars will give a bigger punch and a better punch than they gave last year. I was so surprised by how easily the Stars went down. I thought the Stars very easily could have beaten the Oilers in a long series, and instead the Oilers win in 6. So the road might be harder for Edmonton, and that's why we love hockey, because even if there's a team that it seems is a lot better than everybody else, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get there, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do it. I will just say the Oilers are positioned to withstand whatever might come their way this season, short of a major Draisaitl injury or a major McDavid or a major Skinner injury or like a big injury to Matthias Ekholm, something like that. Because in addition to having this absolutely loaded roster, by not matching Broberg and Dylan Holloway, letting them walk to St. Louis, by dealing Cody Ceci, they've got $1 million in real honest-to-goodness cap space, plus the Chicago, Tampa, Vegas thing that they're doing with Evander Kane. They put off his surgery. He just gets it recently. He'll probably miss the whole regular season, and that gives them another $5.25 million in cap space. So they're going to be able to add, which is something that a lot of contenders are hard-pressed to do because they just don't have the cap space.
Every time I see a team do an LTIR play, I'm like, this team is going to make a run in the playoffs. All right, let's stay at the top of the division, a team that barely lost to Edmonton last year, the Vancouver Canucks. They made moves to get bigger, but Demko, some injury problems there. Is it enough for Vancouver to get, I mean, I know you just came here and said Edmonton's the team to beat. Is Vancouver maybe the team that can give them in the Pacific their run for their money, or where do you see Vancouver fitting in this division?
Yeah, I think that Vancouver has gotten worse, certainly. They lost players both at center and defense, but really everybody just went to the Bruins. Nikita Zadorov and Elias Lindholm both go to the Bruins. But in kind of like a trade with the Bruins, maybe via free agency, they signed Jake DeBrusk and they signed Dan Heinen. So where does that leave them? They're worse down the middle, they're worse on defense, and they've improved on the wings. Typically, I don't love teams that do that. I like, it's old-fashioned, but be strong down the middle, have good, solid defensemen, and then take your chances. Wings and goalies, as long as the goalies aren't too bad, I think that you can kind of figure out. Right now, they're more about improved play on the wing. It's a worse roster as a result, but last year they arrived. I don't think they're going to get too much worse, and I think that maybe just by a bit, their drop-off has been overstated a little bit. Right now, gambling-wise, they're tied in betting odds with the Kings. I think they're better than the Kings. They're projected, I think, to finish 3rd or 4th in the Central. 3rd, 4th maybe sounds about right, but I still feel that they're being disrespected just a little bit. I still think that they're a really good team. Although you mentioned Demko, the goaltending situation health-wise is a question, but you mentioned how they just barely lost to the Oilers. That went 7 games, and if it weren't for Calvin Pickard kind of putting duct tape on the goaltending situation for a second, maybe they would have beaten the Oilers in a quicker series than that. Artur Shilov's really showed that he can play. So if Demko's out, I don't know if Shilov's can be like a full-time guy at his age, but we'll see.
Wonder, like, they come onto the scene so strong. Like last year, I don't think anybody really expected the performance that Vancouver gave in the regular season. A lot of it had to do with Rick Tocchet coming in. sometimes I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of regression to the mean with that. But I do think that, I think they're still solid. They have a lot of big name players, and if they can stay healthy, I think they'll be one of the upper tier teams in the Pacific. And what they do in the playoffs, I think that remains to be seen. Also at the top, obviously, you have the Vegas Golden Knights, who lost one of their OGs, Marchessault, but now they're hopefully healthy. That's a team that has a lot of LTIR drama. Obviously, Hurdle and Stone are healthy now. What do you think about Vegas this year?
I mean, it's kind of what you like. They lost guys, but we talked about it today. They now turn to their trade deadline acquisitions as being their big kind of identity tweaks or whatever, in that it's Noah Hannafin, who begins a long-term deal with them. It's Tomas Hurdle, who played a few games at the end of the regular season last year, but then did nothing in the postseason, so he just wasn't ready. He just wasn't right, whatever. Now he's got to be their second-line center. He's got to take over for the departed Chandler Stevenson, and he should be departed in free agency, I mean. But he's a better player when healthy than Chandler Stevenson, but they lose so much of their real true identity in losing Jonathan Marchessault, I think. Maybe also Pete said that Chandler Stevenson should be included with that too, but I think of he really seemed burned by them not totally playing ball with him. And I mean, Jonathan Marchessault, I think he thought that he would find a long-term home there. It doesn't end up happening. He's in Nashville now with Steven Stamkos, and that is going to be an absolute party. But the Knights thing is going to have to be, all right, well, now Hannafin is one of our main guys on the back end. That top pairing, if he's playing with Alex Pietrangelo, will be absolutely sick. And they still do have a good top six. And I mentioned in our conversation, Sean DePaz, our producer, Buffalo Sabres guy, he knows Victor Olofsson better than anybody. He signs for $1 million, 1 year and $1 million, a 28 goal scorer to play with the Knights. So don't sleep on him. He might at least help soften the blow of losing Jonathan Marchessault.
Vegas is one of those teams that us here in Arizona, a lot of us really resent them just because of how easy they've had it. Also, it's just an example of what an owner who's fully 100% dedicating to winning looks like. And they've only been in the league for, less than 10 years at this point. Who knows what ebbs and flows they're going to go through over the course of their many years in the NHL. But it's just so hard to imagine Vegas ever being bad given what the ownership is willing to invest in constantly winning. And also, he's never been afraid to be a savage, with the whole Marc-Andre Fleury situation and letting Marchessault go. He'll kind of do whatever it takes to win, and it paid off with them winning a Stanley Cup in 6 years. So it's one of those where it's I hate them, but I can't help but respect them, if that makes sense.
And they have a coach. Love him or hate him, Bruce Cassidy's an awesome coach, and he's not going to show poorly in the regular season. He just doesn't do that. He got fired in Boston because the players weren't crazy about him, apparently. Not because they missed the playoffs or something like that. So I think that while Vegas, and I mean Vegas, gambling, sports books and whatnot, while they love the Knights, I think they have them the seventh best odds to win the Stanley Cup. I think that that's a little too much for them. I think that the average hockey fan thinks that the Knights are going to take a bigger step backwards than maybe I do. You got to remember, the Knights were the last team in the playoffs in the Western Conference last year. They were the second wild card team. So I think they'll be better than they were last year, if only because this kind of reorg will maybe get their attention and make them realize hey, we can't really screw around this year.
And especially, like I mentioned before, with having Stone healthy and healthy during the regular season and not just in time for the playoffs, because I don't think they quite anticipated, stumbling into the playoffs like they did. They're usually a pretty dominant regular season team, but, they have to contend with other top teams in the Pacific. They don't get to run the table, no pun intended, I guess, anymore in that division. So we still have a lot of teams to get to. and we will get to those. We're going to continue to preview the Pacific. We're going to give our predictions, our hot takes. I'm very curious who DJ is going to pick to win the division. Just kidding. But I know I saw you on Twitter saying you were picking Anaheim second. We'll get to Anaheim in a bit. All of that's coming up next on the PHNX Hockey Show. But first things first, we're going to hear a message from our sponsors, our friends at Empire Today. We love Empire Today. Not only did they do all the flooring in our Studio A here at our downtown offices, they also have helped out Petey. They've helped out my mom. And let me tell you, when you're getting a big project done in your home, you want it done right. You want it done with people who care, who have attention to detail, and also somebody who makes it easy for you to shop. How overwhelming is it to walk into those big box stores and pick something out? You can do it right from the comfort of your own home. And I don't know why I'm not on the screen anymore, but I'm going to keep talking, everybody. Don't worry about it. Our friends at Empire Today, we absolutely love them. And you should check them out. If you're on the fence about getting your floors redone, you can schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. And one of our other favorites, and I wish Petey was here to kind of give his rundown of who's coming to Gila River Resorts and Casinos, because he's always looking at the concerts, but I'm always looking at the events. We have a ton of amazing events coming up at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. We have Cardinals away game watch parties out there. They have something for everyone, whether you're looking to gamble, whether you're looking for an amazing restaurant, just a great experience. You can check out the sports book. Gila River Resorts and Casinos has something for everyone. You can do a staycation. It's great. It's just amazing stuff. Their pool is unbelievable. So you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. All right, we're going to get back to our preview in just a moment here. I next want to talk about the teams that are kind of the middle that we don't fully know what their identity is, DJ. And we're going to start with the Seattle Kraken. Dan Bylsma comes in. He obviously has a successful tenure. He won a Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but, it didn't last super long thereafter. Do you think Dan Bylsma is the answer in Seattle? And can Seattle return to their year one playoff push, or is it not there yet for Seattle?
It depends on what an answer looks like for Seattle, because I think that improving them to the point that they're an actual contender in the West, I think would be more than you can reasonably expect from a coach. And Dan Bylsma was a good coach in Pittsburgh. Obviously, he had very good players, but he's also proven to be a very good coach in the AHL. So he's kind of done the Bruce Cassidy thing, which is kind of start back at the bottom and work your way back up. And now he's ready to have another coaching position. But he takes over a team that, while solid on defense, I just look at this roster and I'm like, who is supposed to score goals for you? Matty Beniers took a step backwards last season. I want to say he only scored 15 goals. They signed Chandler Stevenson, who's a good middle six guy, but not much of a goal scorer. They only had 2 20-goal scorers on their roster last season, Jared McCann and Oliver Bjorkstrand. They both return, but you only have 2 20-goal scorers, and it's just not a very exciting, overwhelming roster. I think the best case for this team is that your 2 young centers, Matty Beniers and Shane Wright, take big steps forward, especially in the case of Shane Wright. If he can, on What Chaos, we kind of order it as like, you can arrive and you can break out. I think for Matty Beniers, he's already arrived somewhat and you want him to break out. For Shane Wright, if he could arrive and prove that he could be like a middle six center or even just a middle six forward at this point in his career, then that would be great. But I'm not looking for or expecting Seattle to be making any sort of realistic run here.
Yeah, I think Seattle, they came into the league year one and just like Vegas, kind of surprised everybody, won a round in the playoffs, and you thought, oh my God, it's going to be Vegas 2.0. And I think last year we saw kind of what the real Seattle Kraken team was capable of. And I don't think it was a reflection of coaching. And I don't necessarily think that Dan Bylsma coming in, I mean, the one advantage is he has been an AHL coach for many years, and he has been a very successful AHL coach. And, you know, one thing with that is you are working to develop your players, and a team like Seattle has a lot of young players that, you know, I know, you know, Andre Tourigny here famously said, like, the NHL is not a developmental league, but, you know, to a point when an organization like Seattle, where there isn't this crazy pressure, these crazy expectations at this stage, I think it's, you know, hopefully they take a step in the right direction, but I still think they're a couple years away from being a contender in the playoffs, if that makes sense, but still have some of the best jerseys in the league.
Great jerseys. I've got, it's not in the shop, but I've got their, I think it was the Winter Classic, right, Sean? Yeah, I got their Winter Classic jersey behind me that is just absolutely amazing. As Sean runs to get it, absolute, just like that's one of the most gorgeous items I've ever seen in my life. So they look good. They look the part. They don't score goals. Although, shout out Brennan Montour. That's a very good addition, even if the contract isn't amazing. Like I said, they're good on defense. I just don't know where their goals are going to come from.
Yeah, for sure. I mentioned middle teams. I don't know if this team necessarily qualifies as middle. They're probably maybe part of that upper tier, but LA, I think, also here in Arizona, just LA is synonymous with boo. But LA, you know, maybe they kind of got older, took a step back, and then all of a sudden they did kind of a retool on the fly, but they still have those core pieces from the teams that won the cups in the early 2010s. Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar, obviously they're older players. Do they still have something left? And is LA still the favorite in California?
So Kopitar and Doughty definitely still have a lot left, or I don't know, a lot yet left as far as longevity goes, but they're still very good players. They also happen to be 34 and 37 years old, respectively. So, like, the window, if there is a window for this team right now, is closing in relation to those two, at least. But Quinton Byfield, young player, I want to say he's 22, just beginning his second contract, 5 times 6.125, I want to say, really arrived last year, still after scoring 20 goals, can take another big step forward. And I think that so much of this Kings season is riding on Quinton Byfield, because they traded for and gave a ton of money to Pierre-Luc Dubois before last season. After one season, they pull the plug on that. They trade him. They send him to Washington before his no move or any sort of difficulty with buyouts begin. I don't know how they were able to move him without taking on any money, but good for them. They get that contract off the books. But now their plan of being deep at center, like really deep at center, is out the window unless Quinton Byfield, who had been playing on the wing and playing a lot with Anze Kopitar, can be the stud second line center and eventual Kopitar successor that PLD was supposed to be. So a lot of the season rides on their very good young player and top pick, Quinton Byfield.
They're also a team that had a coaching change kind of late in the year. I'm curious if that will have any effect. We often see the new coach bump. So I'm wondering if that'll apply. Like I said, we're all LA Kings haters here in Arizona, except for BC in our chat, who's always a Kings fan, always expressing their love for the Kings in our chat, which we appreciate you watching every day, BC. Seriously. The one thing the Kings do have going for them is they did an amazing jersey redesign, and I love. I know you've been on you and Pete have really been on the Kings and Ducks, which we'll get to the Ducks in a moment, but the new jersey redesigns are awesome.
Oh, yeah, the Kings jerseys are sick. And you mentioned on the coaching thing, Jim Hiller comes in and goes 21-12 and 1 with the team and takes them from a fringe playoff team to being third in the Pacific. So, like, no small feat. It's not like he took over and they went undefeated down the stretch, but he definitely gave them some stability, and they get to the postseason before experiencing what they always experience in the postseason, which is losing to the Oilers in the first round. But what are you going to do? I like, and I think it's logical for them to then actually hire him and kind of remove the interim tag. So first full year of Hiller, maybe that can make an impact, but otherwise the roster isn't amazing.
Fair enough. We'll keep it in Southern California with the other team that did the best jersey redesign. First of all, I hated the Ducks. I think the jerseys I hate the most are the Ducks jerseys and the Dallas Stars. I hate the Dallas Stars logo right now. I hate it. The old Anaheim Ducks logo, the one they just changed from, I hated it, especially when you were the Mighty Ducks before. They're going back to it with the orange. That was their best offseason move, okay? But hockey-wise, Trevor Zegras kind of had a regression last season. They're a team that's, definitely going through a rebuild. They've had a couple high draft picks. Are they bouncing back? Are they moving forward? Or is this a team that could potentially be last in the Pacific again?
I have them 6th in the Pacific, which maybe sounds a little crazy. And you mentioned that I had said on Twitter that I was going to put them 2nd in the Pacific. It seemed like the person that was tweeting at me about them was maybe on the fence about checking out the episode. So what I'll do in that case is I will lie to the person and maybe to check it out. So you never know. It's just a little method that I use. It's like a kind of inside radio.
Sorry he lied.
It's just like a media little move that you do that I've picked up through my years in this business. But I think that they're in a position where they've got a lot of young players. They've got Frank Vetrano, 30 years old, UFA to be, coming off a 37-goal season, was absolutely outstanding last year. They've named Radko Gudas captain. They and the Sharks, I think, are trying to kind of balance out how young they are and how much this season could be about developing guys by keeping the environment really good. But when you talk about the young guys, this Ducks team has, Leo Carlson. They load managed the hell out of him last year. They only let him play in 55 games. Cutter Gauthier is coming to the NHL from Boston College. That's really exciting. You mentioned Trevor Zegras, who stunk last year, quite frankly, 15 points in 31 games. So see what he ends up being. Mason McTavish, 21 years old. This is his 3rd season. And I will say that he has probably arrived, but he has yet to break out. So a lot of these young guys either are going to just be getting their feet wet, or they could take big steps forward. And specifically in the case of Carlson and McTavish, those are guys that could take big steps forward. But should be note, Cutter Gauthier, 5th best odds to win the Calder. So keep an eye on number 61 out there.
Interesting. Anaheim. Didn't mean to offend any California hockey fans with that stumble. Anaheim, another one. I think another, like, Zegras is another one that Arizona fans all kind of despised. But it'll be interesting to see what step they take. I think in a lot of ways they were kind of comparable to where maybe the Coyotes had been one step ahead of them, but both teams that were in the bottom going through retools. However, not getting Anaheim had better luck than the Coyotes at the time, but the team with the most luck was obviously the San Jose Sharks, winning the draft lottery last year to draft Macklin Celebrini, the unanimous 1st overall pick. They had also drafted Will Smith the previous year. Can Celebrini make San Jose an NHL team again? I mean, San Jose, talk about a team that really went for it in the loss category. Can Celebrini take them up a notch, or is this a team that will finish last again?
The Sharks and Blackhawks were so bad last year. They weren't like, they got a ways to go. Like, they were so bad. Like, talking about like teams that really cratered, and the Sharks recognize that. They move off Tomas Hertl. Like, they've traded a bunch of guys, and this team now, like, they're basically going to be just dropping in a whole new power play, which they should do because their power play was pretty terrible. It was 26th in the league, but Sharks were 31st in goals for last season, 32nd in goals against. So if the question is, does Macklin Celebrini change what the Sharks are from are they respectable standpoint? No one player changes being that bad. He makes them exciting. He and Will Smith definitely make them exciting. And let's not forget Yaroslav Askarov, one of the top
that was a big trade
in the NHL, who saw the UC Saros contract in Nashville and said, you know what, forget this, get me out of here. The Sharks trade a 1st-round pick, trade the pick that they got for Tomas Hertl to get him, in addition to other stuff. So the Sharks have 3 of the top 8 favorites to win the Calder. Macklin Celebrini tied for first with Matvei Michkov. Will Smith, sixth. Yaroslav Askarov, eighth. So top prospects in the NHL. That's very exciting. And in addition to that, they signed Tyler Toffoli, a Stanley Cup champion, a guy who's going to help any team's power play. They trade Ty Emberson, a good young defenseman, for Cody Ceci. And I say that with a face endearingly because Cody Ceci is on a good team, maybe a player that is going to have some moments that might cost you a bit. We love Cody Ceci. He's been on the show, our favorite guy. Shout out his dog, Hugo. So why do the San Jose Sharks trade a promising young player who is in the 96th percentile of defensive defensemen for him? Because Cody Ceci rocks. His teammates absolutely love him. They are making sure, much like the Chicago Blackhawks did a year ago when they jumped on Boston's fire sale of trying to move money to say, oh, yeah, we'll take Nick Foligno, where they want to make sure their young players are surrounded by awesome people who love hockey, who will be good sounding boards for them. They also trade for Jake Wallman, who's a fun guy who does dances on the ice. This is, and claim Barclay Goodrow when the Rangers kind of pulled their shenanigans. This is a team that still is going to, at best, score goals and allow a million goals, but that's an improvement from scoring no goals and allowing a million goals. So they'll be better in areas, but honestly, the biggest way in which they've improved is that they have players that in the future will be stars, and they've surrounded them with good guys who hopefully will make the transition easy in year one.
Yeah, for sure. I think especially for the fan base, I mean, you saw some of the attendance numbers from San Jose last year, and it was pretty abysmal, but not to the fault of the fans. I don't know who would want to go watch that. So hopefully at least this year with the Celebrini factor and some of the other names you just mentioned, the fans will go out. And maybe it's not the worst thing if they're bad again. They can get another top 5 pick, and it's going to put San Jose in a really, really solid position in a few years from now to be a competitive team again. Obviously, they had some unbelievable years in the mid 2010s and before that. So I'd like to see San Jose kind of on the rise again. I personally was, pulling for the Sharks to win the Celebrini Bowl, and I'm glad that they did. There's so many great storylines with that. I think San Jose and Anaheim, though, are going to be the bottom of this division once again. But it's all for the gearing for the future. But I love to see when the West Coast teams do well and the non-traditional market teams do well. As a Arizona gal, I love to see that. Last team, this one, I don't know where they fit. The Calgary Flames. I think the only positive for them right now is they're finally getting a new arena eventually. I think they've come out on the record and say that they're doing a bit of a retooling year. So I don't think there's super high expectations for this Flames team, but I'm curious your read on them.
Yeah, just an uninteresting team, quite frankly, which is a bummer because Calgary is a great hockey market. Their fans are super passionate, love their uniforms. Just like when it's good, it's good. But right now, they're a team that really is just kind of shuffling deck chairs and waiting for something particularly good to happen to them. My only hope for them is that something can happen, or somebody, maybe it's Dustin Wolf, who's going to take over for Jacob Markstrom as their starting goaltender. Something needs to happen that makes you feel like the arrow is pointing up by season's end. And I don't know how realistic that is. I think that it's most likely going to stay around where they've been, which is they finished 5th in the Pacific last year. Are they 6th? Are they 7th or something like that? That's a tough spot to be. The Coyotes have been like that in the past, where you'd almost rather be at the bottom of the standings than be in that kind of will they, won't they sort of situation. Because in most cases, when you're asking will they, won't they about a team, the answer is they will not, most likely. And that's kind of where the Flames are right now. Kind of a murky situation. They sign Anthony Mantha, but it's after trading Andrew Mangiapane. So you're not any better really. And it's year 3 of Jonathan Huberdeau there, but year 2 of that big contract that's worth 8 years and $10.5 million per. They're not in a good spot right now. And I hope they can be exciting, because everything I just said about them was the most exciting thing I could think of. Not to mention, of course, we talk about the Blue Jackets and everything that they've endured. Let's not overlook that the Flames fans have gone through this tragedy as well with Johnny Gaudreau. I know that very few players on the roster were there for when Gaudreau was there, which just speaks to the exodus that really has occurred with this team over the years. Like, you look at that roster, the last year Gaudreau was there, they were loaded. Kachuk, Markstrom, Zadorov, Lindholm, so many good players. And now just Noah Hannafin, and now it's really kind of slim pickings over there. And as I said, and then you factor in that, like, the fan base is dealing with this horrible tragedy. It's not great times to be a Calgary Flames fan.
Yeah, it's really too bad. They've kind of been dealt a really difficult hand with the mass exodus of players from there. And I'm hoping that, listen, like, if a team needs a new arena, I want to see them get a new arena. I'll say that firsthand. And I hope that happening can help. I think the facilities play a huge role. I've been to Calgary. I think it's an amazing city. It gets really cold in the winter, but like, it's a short drive from Banff and Canmore. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. I have a couple friends who live in Calgary who are from Calgary. I love it there. I hope they can be on the up, especially like you mentioned, the fan base has just been through so much over the last couple of seasons, and especially this summer. So, hoping that they're on the rise, hoping the retool happens, but it's kind of a wait and see, and they're kind of in the Pacific Division purgatory, I think, if you will, at least for this upcoming year. So we'll see on that. Let's give our predictions.
RCA recording artist Tate McRae is from Calgary.
There we go. Where's the bingo cards for DJ's appearance on this show?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. I'm going to put you on the spot first to give your predictions. You might have already done this on your guys' show. Your predictions for the Pacific Division.
Ooh. Do you mean like standings wise?
Yeah,
or just
like give me your order of how you think it'll finish.
Okay. We just did this and we went number 1, Edmonton, 2nd, Vegas, 3, 3rd, Canucks, 4th and wild card, Kings, 5, Kraken, 6, Ducks, 7, Flames, and 8th, endearing San Jose Sharks.
Okay. I like it. I'll go next. We also have Shane here on the headset, so we'll get his. I put him on the spot yesterday, and I said, we're going to preview the Pacific. I hope you're ready. And he was like, I don't think I can name all the Pacific teams. And then he did. So he's ready for his predictions.
Hey. Okay, that's not for lack of knowledge. Divisions are just stupid. I hate divisions. They don't mean anything.
I mean, the Pacific is pretty geographical.
I mean, okay, I love the geographic nature of it. I was stoked on it when I realized they all made sense geographically. But they're stupid. I hate divisions.
Okay.
I don't know how, but I want to spend more time on that.
I think a lot of it comes from college football conference realignment. It makes me angry that Cal has to go play Rutgers every year. But it's more so in basketball. Like the NBA, the divisions mean nothing to me. Absolutely nothing. They don't do anything. Like obviously this means something because it gets your seeding and it helps them determine playoff order. And the NBA, it literally means nothing. It just means who you're playing every year.
Yeah. That's I could not give you the NBA divisions.
No. You couldn't pay me to guess those. I have no clue. The Pacific, I think, is one that makes sense. We used to have a hard time when the Coyotes were here because the Coyotes did not belong in the Central geographically. They belonged in the Pacific. Craig, every single year, proposed division realignment. I guess that's not our problem anymore. Utah can have fun in the Central. Okay, I will give my picks for the Pacific. I'm also going to go Edmonton number 1. I once again, we might have to have PD comment later what his picks would be. I'll go Edmonton 1. I'm still high on the Canucks. I'll put them 2nd and Vegas 3rd. I'll do LA 4th. I'll also go Seattle 5, but I'll go Flames 6. Then Ducks, then Sharks. So pretty close to what you had. Just a couple flips in there. Shane? Pacific Division expert Shane Diefenbach, everyone.
Pacific Division hater. Edmonton 1. We're gonna go Vancouver 2.
Ooh.
LA 3.
Ooh, Vegas
Kraken
hater.
4.
Whoa!
I hate the Golden Knights. I hate them. We're going 5. Ducks, Flames, Sharks.
That was cool. That was cool.
Here's what happened last week. They kind of did the same thing, her and Petey, and they were both like, there was no really hot takes. So I was like, you know what?
Oh, he had a hot take on the Central.
We're putting Utah. Utah's winning the cup because I didn't actually say that.
No, I love Utah. Am I allowed to say that on here?
You can say it, but just
So I am well known in North America for loving the Utah Hockey Club this season. I think that they had such a good offseason. I said in our Central preview, I'm known for having said this. The savviest offseason was Utah Hockey Club. Trading for 2 top 4 defensemen in their mid-20s. In this economy, that's incredible.
Okay, I said you can say you like them, not expand upon it. Hey, we're still a little sensitive here. No, that's fine. Yeah, Shane said that they'd finish 3rd in the Central, mostly because it would just be a final FU to Coyotes fans. So that's where that take came from.
Everybody in Arizona just needs to embrace the fact that they're going to be good. Like, they're going to be good. We knew they were going to be good. We knew they were going to be good even if they stayed here. Like, this team was on the was coming up. Like, okay, they wouldn't have traded for 2 top 4 defensemen if they were still here. That's for sure.
Morello would not have bankrolled that.
But the future was bright, and that's why it hurt the most. And now that they're gone, they are 100% going to be good.
Oh, could you imagine Mikhail Sergachev Desert Night jersey?
Hey, did you ever get your Sean Dursey Desert Night?
No, Sean Dursey, I didn't.
That's really unfortunate.
Maybe one of the animals that he was talking about ate it.
Yeah. We're supposed to do something with the Utahs at some point this season. And maybe I'll be like, yo, Sean, where is it? And he'll be like, I don't know who you are. Or
who are you? No, Sean's a nice guy. He would never big time you like that.
Such a fan.
Oh boy. All right. Well, we're gonna get to some Arizona hockey talk. We can leave the Utah behind. We'll get to some Arizona hockey talk. We're gonna talk about Gary Bettman's comments, Bill Daly's comments about expansion, and I'm really curious to get DJ's perspective on this as somebody who resides on the East Coast. So we want to know his thoughts. That's all coming up on PHNX Hockey. First things first, though, our friends at Game Time want to hook you up. I was going to come here and say you can grab your playoff tickets on Game Time for the D-backs. Will the D-backs even make the playoffs? I'm not sure, but if they do, make sure you grab your tickets over at Game Time. I've used Game Time. It's so easy to use, and they have a really awesome thing right now. A new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting picks for your favorite live events even easier. It filters out the fluff and only shows you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching thousands of tickets. For me, that's my least favorite part about buying tickets anywhere. I kind of just want somebody to say, hey, here's the best options, here's the best prices. That's what I love about Game Time. You can also, click on it and see what your view from your seat would look like. If there's going to be a concert stage and, what's normally an arena, you can see what the view is. That's so helpful for me. So make sure you check out Game Time, and their new offer with Game Time Picks just makes everything easier. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time, and if you've never used Game Time before, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Listen, I don't know what the weather's like on the East Coast. It's like 110 degrees here in Arizona today. Whatever, temperature aside, it's sunny most of the year. And if you don't have sunglasses, you need to get yourself a pair of Shady Rays. I love my Shady Rays. I wear them everywhere. I put them in my bag. They get rattled around. They are so durable. Also, their styles are amazing. They're always coming out with new styles. I have a new pair on the way. I'm so excited. We love Shady Rays over here at PHNX, and especially here in Arizona, where you almost can't leave your house without sunglasses or your eyes will actually hurt, especially me. I have blue eyes, the lighter eyes. really hurts in the sun. That's why I have not only one, but multiple pairs of Shady Rays. And right now, exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for 35% off. That's awesome. Polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right. It's time to talk expansion and potential for hockey to be back here in Arizona. This is what we never thought it would be us wanting to be the ones that expansion came to, but here we are. And there were all these things that were out there. The vibes were so good earlier in the week. And then Gary Bettman on Monday came out and said, everything that's been written in the last week is categorically wrong. He said that to the Toronto Star. We're not going through an expansion process, and other than updating the board on October 1st as to places that have expressed an interest, there's nothing else that's going to be done on expansion. Everything else was either speculation or I don't know what to call it, but it had no basis in fact. Okay, Gary, we don't need that negativity.
Simple no would have just done it.
I know, he really doubled down. And I was upset because I was thinking, oh, we're going to talk about Bill Daly and the player poll, and we still are. Because the thing about Gary Bettman is he's a lawyer. He knows what he's saying. He knows his words. And he said, we're not going through an expansion process. Okay, they're not. But that doesn't mean they're not going to. I mean, we've heard time and time again that they're going to expand eventually. DJ, I'm curious, Arizona aside, what are your thoughts on expansion? And you're not going to offend anybody with your answer. Do you feel like the NHL should expand, or is 32 teams enough?
No, 32 teams is enough. My worst fear with sports I like is watering them down. And there are certain teams like the WNBA or certain leagues like the WNBA where I'm like, expand, stretch it out, keep going. And even if that means that like the league kind of needs to catch up to having that many teams, then whatever. I'll take a few bumpy years. I'll take a few non-competitive years. I think the NHL is just so far past that kind of stage where you want it to remain the best of the best of the best, and you want AHL players to still be unbelievable. You want the NHL to be so good that great players are playing in the AHL, and that like even getting to the NHL is a darn near impossibility. I don't want to lose that. And maybe adding 30 more players to the league wouldn't really do that, or 25 more players to the league wouldn't really do that. But I think 32 is a fair place to have it. Before you also, to get to Shane's earlier point, like, or to bastardize Shane's earlier point, I'll say, like, at what point do you lose track of the teams? Like I'm pretty sure I can rattle off without having to look at anything, the 32 teams, but it might take me a few minutes. If you get to 33, 34, I'm probably leaving like 8 or 9 off because there's just not enough space in our brains to keep track of 33 or 34 teams.
Yeah. The problem is I'm inclined to agree with you. I do think 32 is enough. That's one opinion. My other opinion is now, as somebody in a market without an NHL team, if expansion is what it takes, let's make it 40. I don't care. We'll see. So, I think everything that you said makes total sense, and I do agree. But just the way that we have to think here, I can't see any of the current 32 markets relocating. I don't even think the league wanted to get to a place that the Coyotes ended up relocating. I think if they had their way, it would have been expansion. It would have been more money for everybody. We're going to operate now going forward with the idea that we would like to see it for Arizona's sake. But you can...
Can I just note, I want it in Arizona's case. Like, I agree with you that if that's what it takes, I want Arizona to be back. Because I think that city will, or that fan base will be back with a vengeance. Not that they've really gone anywhere, because they're really good, passionate fan base, but I want Arizona to have hockey. So if it's for Atlanta, I'd rather relocation. Really, if it's for Arizona, I'd rather relocation. But if it's what it takes, I will take expansion just for Arizona.
Okay, well, I do appreciate that, and I hope you're not just saying that to pander to the listeners of this show. But I do appreciate that. I would never want. I don't want to see teams relocate. Like, after going through it, it was awful. Seeing all the Oakland A's fans prepare for the last game there, like it just shatters my heart. It was funny because earlier in the week when Gary Bettman made those comments, and I sent it in our Discord, our Diehard Only Discord, and said, "Oh, like, not today, Gary." And then someone said, "No, like, he's saying this. It gives Arizona more time to like get it together." I was like, you know what? I like that thinking. I love putting on the tinfoil hat and thinking that way. I mean, let's be real. Like, having an arena in place is the biggest hurdle and the biggest obstacle to having a team back here. And until that happens, it's not going to happen. I can sit here every single day and say Arizona deserves an expansion team. But until there's an arena in a great location, it's not going to happen. And I understand that. However, and Bill Daly kind of said that too. He had a quote earlier this week in the hockey news that said, obviously, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman and I like to joke that we've spent the last 20 years trying to preserve hockey in Arizona, and ultimately we were unsuccessful with this iteration. This is what everybody was like hanging on to, and this is why Gary Bettman had to say something, because he said, we're unsuccessful with this iteration. It doesn't mean the next one won't be successful. He didn't say the possible next one. He said the next one. Given the right circumstances, it can be very successful. Are we reading too much into this? Of course. But it is nice to hear that the second in command in the NHL, you know, we've known about Gary Bettman's fervent support of this market. It's great to hear it from Bill Daly as well. Just that they still believe in this market. I think that, honestly, I think Gary Bettman's probably trying to put some space between him and Arizona for now. I don't blame him for doing that. But I do think if hopefully, like, if I could ever get them off the record and ask, I would hope that they would both say, yeah, we want Arizona as an expansion market or as an NHL market, whichever way that happens. Because I do think it is an extremely, extremely promising market.
Yeah, and it's a passionate one. So I just think that would be such a good day for hockey, and obviously a good day for Arizona if that came. So in the case of Arizona, give me expansion. Other than that, try to keep the numbers as light as we can.
Fair enough. But just more on Arizona as a market. The Athletic did a player survey at the player tour in Europe and North America. They did a poll among the players. Should Arizona, Atlanta, both or neither get another crack at an expansion team? 53.1% of the vote said Arizona, which was far and away the most out of any. More so if you add in the both factor, it puts it above 65%, which is great. Obviously, 28% said neither. And there were some good comments, with that as well. Somebody said Arizona just needs better owners. Yeah, preaching to the choir on that one. But someone also said, I don't see a lot of guys that hated going to Arizona, the lifestyle. I mean, we've talked to players, we've talked to agents, we've talked to so many people. It's not a matter of people not wanting to play here, not wanting to live here. It's one of the, like, if this market had everything going for it, an arena and a team that was successful, because the truth of the matter is, there is a diehard fan base here. We see them. We interact with them all the time and have for the last few years. But this is, other than that, it's a fair weather market, much like other markets in the West. And, this isn't Chicago. This isn't Philly. The team has to win. And there just hadn't been a winning team here. But for me, the combination of an arena in a great location, a ownership that's committed to hockey and not just real estate, an ownership that's committed to getting a winning team in place, like, this could potentially be, if all of those things happened, one of the top destinations in the National Hockey League.
Yeah. And I remember when Sean Dursey was on with us, like, he clearly loved playing there. He was a little scared of the animals at first, which I would be scared of. And I did famously say that there should have been a rule in the NHL where you should be allowed to veto trades to Arizona if you're scared. But other than that, it seems like a great place to play, and guys that went there were happy. So it deserves it. They got a raw deal. The fans especially got a raw deal. So hopefully good things come their way, and they get to experience the payoff of building a roster that was moving in the right direction, which they were when it got yanked away. Josh Doan I'm excited to see what the first full year of him looks like. It's such a bummer that it didn't get to be experienced there.
Yeah, the one thing they can never take away is his NHL debut, which is still like one of my most favorite and special Coyotes memories of all
Let's
time.
not talk Coyotes. Let's talk about what you were saying earlier about the animals in Arizona. I saw a video of a desert caterpillar the other day that I didn't know existed. That is terrifying.
I don't get how...
Sorry, desert centipede, not a caterpillar, centipede, which is even scarier. Caterpillars or whatever, they're kind of cute. Centipedes, no.
It's just so wild to me that like Sean is a man who is from Buffalo, New York. It's crazy to me. Like, that's so brave of you. You went to Arizona.
There's a reason I left.
Wait, because you want to see because you're brave or because you want animals?
No, there's a reason I left Arizona.
Oh, scary animals?
Scary animals is part of it.
I would be so
DJ, do you know anything about a tarantula hawk?
Tarantula hog?
A tarantula hawk. That would be awesome.
Tarantula hog would rock.
What? Tarantula hawk.
A tarantula hog sounds like a low level minor league baseball team. The tarantula hogs. No, a tarantula hawk is like a hornet type insect that eats tarantulas and kills them. They're here. I've seen them. Scary as hell.
It is quite literally in every way hell. It is hot as shit, and there are so many evil creatures walking around.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, it's funny because when we had former ASU assistant coach Albie O'Connell on the show, Boston guy, he came in our studio and he said,
Weekend tickets one time because I needed to get into a Vampire Weekend show, and he's a BU guy, so he was able to just like leave. Anyway, go on.
Great guy. He came in the studio and he said, I am absolutely terrified here. And it didn't help. Greg Powers was like egging him on and kind of putting things in his head. He had a beautiful house in Paradise Valley. He ended up moving to an apartment in Tempe because he couldn't he would get out of his car and like sprint to his front door because he was so afraid of all the animals here. It's really not that bad. I've literally never seen a live scorpion in almost 20 years of living here. But alas.
I saw live scorpions in the 3 years I lived there, so I don't know.
Well, we can average out our experiences.
I used to hunt them with UV lights and try to find them.
Okay, well, you kind of live up in the mountains. I don't.
I saw a bobcat.
Didn't you lose a cat or something to?
Yes. Okay, we did lose my family cat to a bunch of coyotes once.
This part of the show,
it's the coyotes' fault once again.
This part of the show was supposed to be presenting Arizona as a great NHL market, and I don't think we've done that here.
It's a great NHL market as long as you are in the right parts and not in the mountains where the creatures can get you.
All right.
All right.
We're gonna wrap up.
Last thing I'll say is I haven't been got yet, so.
A little different, Shane. That's
that's what I was going to say. Not all of us.
They tried. They can't.
Well, if you don't want to be near the critters, you can get inside the hockey rinks. There's still plenty of hockey here in Arizona. Arizona State kicks off their season in just a couple weeks. We're taking over Mullet on October 12th for opening weekend against Michigan. Absolutely cannot wait for that. You can also check out high school hockey, the Roadrunners. It's still here. Support hockey in Arizona. Even though there's no NHL team, there's plenty of great hockey, and we want to continue to support the hockey communities here, youth hockey, all of it. So we will continue to do that and let everybody know ways you can do that. The hockey community is still incredibly strong. We have our Discord channel where we're talking hockey all day, every single day in our Discord, even with no NHL team here. So one of the many great perks to becoming a diehard here at PHNX as well is 20% off merchandise. You can get your Hockey Belongs in the Desert t-shirt for free if you sign up to become a diehard, or 20% off if you are already a diehard. Plus, you get access to exclusive written content on the website as well. So become a diehard today, join the family. And if you're a fan of any of the other teams as well, we have great coverage for you. DJ, thank you so much for co-hosting with me. I sincerely appreciate it. And I hope we get to chat more again soon throughout the season. And I know PD will make appearances on What Chaos throughout the year as well.
Yes, thank you very much for the invite. It's always a blast.
And Sean, always great to hear your voice. We miss you here,
Likewise.
Even though you clearly don't miss us, but it's fine.
I miss
Sean,
you
the Bills
guys.
the best team in the league.
You guys are
right
the
now.
teachers.
Hey, can I tell tales out of school? Sean went to a Bruins game last night on a whim.
I did.
We
wow,
found out
who is
because
he?
A listener posted a picture with Sean at the Bruins game and was like, "Thanks for the pic, Sean." He was like, "Sean, did you go to a Bruins game?"
I missed like most of the first period, but I did go to a Bruins game. I also think I heard Shane ask if the Buffalo Bills are the best team in football, and the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you didn't ask that, the answer is still yes.
No, that is what I asked.
They rock.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Thank you, everybody here in the chat. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss audio-only shows every single week. Make sure you subscribe to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. You can follow me at Leah Merrill. You can follow DJ at DJ_Bean, correct?
Yes, that's it.
Shane is at Shane Deef. Sean at Sean_DePause. I still remember. And you can follow the show at PHNX_hockey. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.